Our whole family's traveling to Big Sandy, Texas for a homeschool conference, and it's always fun and exciting. And the main reason is we get to see a lot of our friends.
Back about 15 years ago, I went to a conference and I walked in and I saw this family with like 7 or 8 kids sitting around a table. And I said, this kind of looks like my family. Hey, Brother Gil!
I saw the sign for the primitive section. I knew I was in the right place.
Person a lot, but there is such a bond there. Having big families, both homeschooling. You are.
Hey guys, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It is Father's Day. So glad to have you here. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. If you have a child and you are a daddy, I hope your Father's Day was amazing. And if you have a daddy, I hope your daddy had a good Father's Day. And happy Father's Day to my wonderful husband, my father, and my brother. Okay, so we have an update because, you know, there's been a lot that's been happening over the last several months with the Duggars. And one thing that we have really been waiting for is some sort of response by Kelly and Gil Bates. We know that the Bates and the Duggars have a relationship. Over the years, they have had a relationship where you know that a lot of it was probably centered around the Institute and Basic Life Principles. And as the two families got more established in reality TV, it's also kind of clear that some of their get-togethers might have been reality TV produced. But that hasn't changed the fact that a lot of their kids are very close and have relationships with one. In fact, Joanna Duggar and Carlin Bates are best friends. John Duggar, or John David, he runs MediCourt with a couple of the Bates sons. And throughout the years, the kids have all been friendly with one another. So we had wondered whether or not the Bates were going to either try to publicly support the Duggars or if they were going to be taking a distant point of view and if we were going to start to see some distancing here by the Bates. And that's kind of what we're seeing right now. So this is all what went down today. Gil Bates was doing his normal Sunday service at Bible Baptist Church of East Tennessee, where he is the pastor. And during his sermon, it was all about Father's Day. Now, the normal sermon was really just about being like a good dad and, you know, being a responsible husband and father, that kind of thing. But towards the end, Gil Bates went off about men that are not good fathers because of what they get involved in. In fact, he started talking about men that are reprobates. So if you are not a fundamentalist or if you're not Christian, what's a reprobate? A reprobate would be an unprincipled person or a sinner who is not of the elect and predestined to damnation. So there are a subset of Baptists that are Calvinist, and they are of the belief that there are some people that are not going to be going to heaven. They will be destined directly to go down double hockey sticks with the devil. And a reprobate would be someone that they believe is who not elected to go to heaven. And during his speech, he started talking about different behaviors that these fathers can get involved with, including looking at images online, looking at videos online, and dabbling in things that he says are unsavory. Now, his language was a lot more forceful, but here's a quick thing about what he says about reprobates. Check it out.
If you're not going to stand up and say no to sin, you think your kids are going to be able to? Don't be a person that's going to sell your family out, sell the most valuable relationship you've ever had, it's not your relationship to God, because you can't say no to sin. Do not be a reprobate.
Now, what I find interesting here is that he said, you know, don't sell your family out, don't get involved in things that are sinful. And we know that Josh even though he is supposed to have had, all of these opportunities and everybody watching him, was unable to sort of let go of these really devious and abhorrent behaviors. Now, in fairness, the Baptist church would want him to, get more with God, and we know that in of itself was not enough. But the fact that he starts going down this path of really sort of saying, if you're not willing to stand away from sin, you are damned to hell, then you start listening to what he goes into further, and it becomes more clear because he starts even getting deeper into what the involvement is and what these dads might be doing.
God forbid that somebody sit in this church house in the secret parts of their life, doing things they should not be doing, and it's going to end up ruining your life and your family. It is not a laughing matter. It is not a joke. It's not something the guy's going to say, hey, so-and-so. Let me tell you something. Be pure in heart and mind. If you're going down those roads, you're hurting your wife, you're hurting your kids, you're hurting everybody you know, don't be I don't even like to say the word, it's so bad. Don't be that way.
So here's why I think he's talking about Josh here, because he's talking about how, God forbid you are in this church and you are involved in these things and you are still doing these things and you are laughing about it and you are not taking it seriously and you are going to ruin your family, ruin your wife, ruin your life, and yet you can't stop. Don't do that. We know that at the bond hearing and throughout this entire situation, Josh had a smirk on his face. He almost was smiling in his mugshot. There's been so many times throughout this where we've kind of felt like Josh hasn't taken this seriously, and he further expands about what can happen if you truly don't let this go.
Say, I'm going to say yes to God and no to sin. If you're deviling around in trash and perversion, you need to get right with God. You need to get some help from somebody. Get some help from God. You better go tell somebody, because what's going to happen if you stay on that road, you're going to end up hurting somebody, and you're going to end up in big, big trouble. You're going to end up in prison. You're going to end up in jail. You're going to end up losing everything you worked for. You're going to only hear about it from behind prison bars, because sin will ruin your life.
So it was interesting because he immediately said, if you are stuck in perversion and if you are stuck in these really bad behaviors, you're going to end up throwing away your whole life and you're going to end up behind bars in jail, only looking out your life through prison walls. And then talking about how they threw their whole lives away. And when you start to talk about that in regards to Josh, he's had all of his life basically handed to him on a silver platter, and he has continually found ways, time and time and time again, of throwing everything away. Now, some people would say that in a way he might also be talking about Jim Bob Duggar, and how Jim Bob might also be stuck in some sort of, situation where he's allowing either himself or his family to be stuck in sin, and because of that, they're going to end up throwing away their lives. Now, he further expands on this and gets a little bit deeper in calling Josh dangerous.
And you're the father. You're supposed to be the protector in that home, the provider in that home. You're supposed to be the stabilizing force of a Christian that says, hey, we're going to stick for God and I'm on your team. We're going to fight through this. We're not going to give in. But if you're off sneaking into things you shouldn't go into, you are a dangerous person. You're a dangerous person. And you're endangering the people in your family. And I'm going to tell you, it will not stay hidden for long. God will let it come out. And when He does, you're going to wish you'd have said, tonight, I'm turning my back on sin.
So again, he's talking about Josh being dangerous in a way. If you are a man of God, if you are a father and you, despite everything, cannot step away from what you're involved in, and you refuse to turn your eyes away from sin, you become dangerous by what you get involved in. You put the people around you in a dangerous situation, and you will be almost when it's all said and done, and when you have to make your testament to God, you're going to wish that you would not have done that. You're going to wish you would have stopped your sin. You would have wished you would have made a better choice. You would have wished that you would do something differently. Now, I understand it's like not that easy. And obviously with Josh, there's so many different layers, but I want to say something here. Gil Bates could have really not said a thing. And I know some people will say, Katie, you're reaching. But honestly, why else would he be talking about someone going to jail? Why else would he be talking about perversion, someone being dangerous? Who else in Gil Bates' life right now, in this very moment, is on the verge of going to prison? Who else does Gil Bates know that is dangerous to his family because of his perversions? It's certainly no one in his family, and there's definitely someone in the Duggar family that is actually having to deal with this. Now, I shared this on my Instagram, and obviously, because I love you guys, I love to hear your points of view and what your thoughts are about this, all of this. And someone said this, wow, a sermon of Gil's I actually want to listen to. Another person said, I feel like this is also talking about Jim Bob. Again, it very well could be. Someone else said, amen to that, not just because of what Josh is accused of, but any of us that stray from God. And then another person said, I've always liked the Bates. They seem more approachable and down to earth. And then another one said this, I'm shocked he said these words. I am impressed he is taking a stand. I just don't understand how Jim Bob can believe and state the same stuff and then turn from the truth the moment it's his son. Another person said, I don't usually care much for Gil Bates, but I love him at this moment. This is the message that Jim Bob might actually hear and understand. And someone else said, you got to give it to the fundies. They really got the using scripture to guilt or shame people down. Another person said, I'm really glad to hear this. This is going to be a situation where there's going to be a lot of opinions. There's going to be a lot of different ways that we explain how we're feeling. But remember how I told you a couple weeks ago that the only way that you're ever going to get Jim Bob Duggar to hear you is if you start using words that he claims to live by, which would be like the Bible. And knowing that Gil is a very respected member of the Institute and Basic Life Principles, maybe this would be a message that Jim hears. But I also want to be completely transparent. And Jim has a history of lots of times pushing people away and relationships sort of souring. And the relationship between Gil and Jim Bob for several years has appeared a little bit icy. We haven't really seen the two of them together. And at one point, the Duggars were not even following the Bates on Instagram, which had a lot of people wondering if there was really something serious happening here. I don't really know where they're at with that. I know that the kids get along, but Gil Bates very clearly is speaking, I believe, to Josh and Jim Bob, saying you need to get out of this or you're going to throw your life away. And if you can't get out of it, you're dangerous. And I think in so many ways, the silence we've had from the Bates for such a long time has been maybe them trying to figure out what they feel and what they think. And I think maybe this was it for Gil. Maybe he's finally had enough. And we know that Josh Duggar's attorneys want more time, so I don't really know when this trial is going to happen. But for now, Gil Bates says, Josh, you are dangerous and you're going to jail because you couldn't because you couldn't step away from sin. And because of that, you are damned and left out of heaven. What are your thoughts about all of this? Tell me in the comments below. Bye, guys.